So we're back for our second installment of the Redline Report webcast, and this week, since I just returned from Sweden, where I was covering the Five Nations Under-18 tournament, I thought I'd talk a little bit about what I saw over there. One of the more interesting things is that we had a head-on matchup between two of the top underage prospects, two of the top 92s in the world who will be eligible for the 2010 NHL entry draft. That was Mikael Granlund from Finland and Kirill Kabanov from Team Russia. And in the head-on-head matchup in the Finnish-Russian game, it was a pretty one-sided affair because Mikael Granlund scored 4 goals for Finland, hit the crossbar 2 other times, could easily have been a 6-goal night for Granlund, which would have been unheard of against any Russian team in international play. And in fact, the line of Mikael Granlund, Teemu Pulkkinen, and Toni Rajala, for the most part, dominated the entire tournament. The Americans wound up winning the tournament, but the Finns, even though they had very little beyond that one top line, managed to come out with 3 victories and were full value for their wins. That line dominated the entire tournament, and the 3 of those players were the top 3 scorers in the tournament. But it was very surprising to see the ease with which Granlund created scoring opportunities every single shift. And his line mates, Toni Rajala, really did a very good job in terms of being a complementary player and reading off of his wingers, reading off of his line mates, and getting to the front of the net. And cashing in on his chances, but also just creating a lot, being a very intelligent playmaker and moving the puck very well. The 3 of them, even though none of them has good size, you couldn't get the puck away from them. They were able to cycle down low and use their speed and their quickness, particularly on the large ice surface in the corners. You couldn't get on them as fast. So that was a very, very interesting development for the Finns in that one line. Even though they had very little beyond that one line, managed to dominate the tournament. Kirill Kabanov, I mentioned earlier, touted as one of the top 3 overall picks for the 2010 entry draft. He was quite good in the tournament, but showed certain signs of the typical Russianness, that Russian attitude. He had a few moments there where he didn't put out his best effort and tended to try and turn on and off the effort level a little bit from time to time, which is disappointing to see at such a young age. There is also, as I mentioned, the Americans won the tournament, and it was mostly on the strength of Kyle Palmieri up front, who continues to just round out his game and get better and better. If you had seen Kyle Palmieri, 2.5 years ago, you would have never expected that he's become the player he is now. He's continued to add different pieces to his game and round out that game. He used to be, a smaller, really annoying, pesky type forward who, you thought would get in people's faces, and he would create chances just through hard work and grit and determination. He still has all that, but he's added much more in terms of the skill set that he now possesses. He's able to take the puck out of the corners and make power moves to the front of the net, even though he's not a big guy. He's short, but very stocky and powerfully built. He's about 5'10", 195 pounds. He gets very low center of gravity and very good leverage in his hits, so he's able to win those one-on-one battles in the corners against guys defenders who are much bigger than he. But he uses that leverage, and he uses his passion and his determination to just outwork people. His hands have actually gotten much better. You don't normally say that about too many players. You have good hands or you have bad hands, and there's not a whole lot of in between for the most part. But he has really worked on that aspect of his game, and he's able to make much more slick moves and handle the puck at top end speed that he didn't used to be able to do a few years ago. So Kyle Palmieri is a guy who really I would watch out for as being one of the sleepers in the 2009 NHL entry draft. We moved him up on Redline Report's draft board all the way to number 16, so he's on the verge of being in the top half of our first round, and I never thought I would say that heading into the season, and certainly 12 months ago I considered him perhaps a nice second-round pick, but never saw him coming up into the top half of the first round. I think he's one of the real sleepers in this year's draft. Another sleeper from that American club is big defenseman William Wren. He's the captain of that team. Not a flashy kind of a guy, but one of those types who just gets the job done. He plays with it himself. He understands the game at both ends. He doesn't make mistakes. He's a very mature, mistake-free type of individual, very responsible on his own end, moves the puck efficiently out of the zone. So I think William Wren is a guy who's kind of flying under the radar. When you talk about top defensemen, not too many of the guys in the scouting community really bring his name up, but I think there's a few teams out there that wouldn't mind stealing him late in the first, early in the second round. So William Wren is another guy coming on who you should take a look for. One of the biggest revelations over there was Russia's huge goaltender, Igor Bobkov. Before heading over to Sweden, many of us in the scouting community had never seen Bobkov play before. He didn't even start the first game for the Russians. But once he got into the lineup, this is a kid who's big. He's 6'4", closing in on 200 pounds. Very athletic, very flexible for his size. He uses those long legs and the big pads to really shut down the bottom half of the net. It's very tough to beat him down low. He has good athleticism for a big, tall, gangly guy. He's going to grow into that body and fill out and mature. This is a kid who is definitely a sleeper in this year's draft. We started him out in the late second, early third round, but it's not a good goaltending crop in this year, and he's a guy who, if he has a good performance in April at the World Under-18 Championships, he's a guy you could see climbing up the charts rather rapidly towards the end of the season. And then also you have to bring in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is kind of the unspoken or the least talked about of the big four on the Swedish defense. Everybody talks about Victor Hedman. Tim Eriksson is Jan Eriksson's son, so everybody kind of knows about him. David Rundblad got some good exposure at the World Junior Championships in Ottawa last month. But Oliver Ekman-Larsson is potentially 5 years from now, he's not that far behind Victor Hedman. I mean, Hedman is ahead of him now, but 5 years down the line, when they're both in the NHL skating at the age of 23, 24, I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson could be talked about in that same sort of category. He's got huge offensive upside, unbelievably light on his feet, very fluid and athletic. This is a kid who, he's not really gotten a lot of international exposure yet, but this was kind of a coming out party for him in February here on his own home ice surface there in Sweden. The whole Swedish team did not perform very well. They did not perform as we all expected, since they are a very individually talented club. But Ekman-Larsson is a name to watch out for at the NHL entry draft coming this June. And at Redline Report, we think that he's going to be a top 10 overall pick, possibly as high as the top 6, 7, 8 picks. We've got him ranked 7th overall on our list right now. And we expect that he's not going to be there by the time the 10th pick rolls around. So anyway, that's our wrap-up from Sweden and the Five Nations Under-18 tournament that took place last week. And we'll be back next week with you for a new topic. Thanks again.